Okay, here I am in my workshop. I'm back in Cato, New York here, and I've picked up some Chechen wood from Woodcraft, and really hard, dense, strong wood. And I've got some Purple Heart, another strong, pretty dense wood, and I've got an old piece of trim something or another. It's some bird's eye maple, and I'm probably going to find some other samples. But the project for what I'm doing today, a friend asked me, they wanted some crosses, so I've previously made some and sized them up and found some things that work. So this time around, I'm going to record and show you a little bit about what I did. I designed the cross. Believe it or not, you do have to put something on paper. You have to draw something out. You have to sketch something out. So templates I found have been really good. Once you figure out your measurements, I used Fibonacci's was it Phi? Not to sound too smart here, but it's a probably forever on repeating number. It's basically the golden. What do they call it? The golden ratio. So what I did was I came up with, a number, and I actually used centimeters from the top to the center of the cross, and then I multiplied it by 1.618, which is 3 decimal places of the golden ratio, and that gave me the rest of it here. And then I basically, just duplicated the length from top to the center. I made the sides a little bit shorter, like 2 millimeters shorter. So overall, I think it's 6.5 centimeters, and it's like, I don't know. So whatever. So I designed something, but it's based on something because you're designing, and they found that ratio really works for things to work well and look good. I'm talking cabinets, bookshelves, homes, columns, all the way down to the geometry of the human body, I guess. So I'm going to take my template that I cut out. It's just a thin thing that I got from Michael's, and I'm right now I'm rough sizing this block of wood. You can see that the grains are going this way, so I like this. These are the radians, I believe. These, you'll find it real pronounced on oak. This is how the food travels from inside of the tree to outside of the tree. I think these are grains. Technically, I think the radians would run this way, and you should see them on this side, I believe. Anyhow, so maybe these aren't radians. So, but it is part of the grain, and it looks pretty nice. I don't want these to be your standard typical. And the crosses that I made before, some of the grains that I had, I turned it to the side because I'm not just cutting these out and then that's done. I can do that, and I did end up giving them away or leaving them places. But what can happen here is when I carve, because I'll end up rough carving these into shapes. And this one's, giving me a little bit more of a platform to carve on in the center. It's harder to cut on end grain and in ways that are, along the grain is easy, but perpendicular, whatever. So, so it's easier for carving, I think, if it's tilted. But this one, I'm just going to keep in block form. I'm gonna keep it to the sides like this. Looks like I'm already a little small there. And then I'm gonna slice them into thin slices, and then I can trace this pattern onto the board, cut it out using my handy dandy old bandsaw here. It's not too old, but it can't really handle that much, but it can handle this. So stay tuned. More cross work to come. Okay, as I'm cutting this block of wood up, I'm thinking, and thought I might talk a little bit more here. when you're designing something and nobody's giving you dimensions to go off of, and you have to figure stuff out, usually how it is with wood, you have to figure out what you need and what works. And it's just like any other high school experiment. You got your parameters that you have to, that confine you. What I'm trying to figure out now is the width of the cross, and strength is really important when you build a cross, because it's you don't want it to break in somebody's hands, right? Making it too thin. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting slices, and this one broke pretty easy. What was my next thickest one here? This one didn't break. It's pretty strong. It's amazing what, a 1/16 will do. There, I just broke it. And I decided to go even a little bit thicker. So this is, no, where's my other, no, this is it here. So, it's getting close to a 1/4 inch there. It's a little less than. This one is 48 somethings, or it's 8 out of 16. No, it's 8 out of 32. So 8/32. So what's that? 64ths. So 48 64ths. No, that's not right, because that's the end of it. Anyhow, I'll have to go like this to get the 64ths. It's 24 64ths, or 8/32. So divide that by 4. So I'm retarded right now. Anyway, it's a 1/4 inch right now. So I think that's what I'm going with. If it breaks, it's no good. I got that first feeling where I broke the first piece, and I'm like, uh-oh, it's not going to be strong enough, and it's going to break in somebody's hand. So nobody's going to be doing this to their cross, I hope, unless you're Nazi or something. So this is strong enough. I'm going with this width. It'll be strong enough, but it won't be too much to carve. And what I'm going to do is just going to make, as many of them as I can. Basically, I'm going to devote this whole block to it and just cut them. I'm sure there's some sort of slide jig or something I can use to set the depth. I was thinking of clamping something here and using a sled dog, and, making it twice the width, say 1/2 inch. Set the thing at 1/2 inch, have a 1/4 inch offset here, and then use a sled dog or something. But I'm not. I'm just going to, do it the hard, stupid way and just slide it in and cut it. So that was really a long explanation for just about nothing. But yeah, setting the width is critical. Here's just a little something I thought I'd share. When you set your height for your table saw blade, you want the top of your wood to be at the valley of the tooth. That way it clears out the wood. You're not too low and you're not too high. Just something I learned in a cabinet shop. Thought I'd let you know. What I'm going to do now, I've got all this Chechen ripped up to 1/4 inch, per length. It's got some real nice grain to it. It's beautiful. And over here, I've got sized out pieces of Purple Heart. So this, I was able to take the 1/4 inch off the end blocks. These with such lovely grain, and the type of piece it was, and how it was already cut to a turning blank. I cut down the edges to the 1 3/4 that I was looking for. Now I'm just going to slide it through and go zing, 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 and make the same small blocks. I would rather, before, when I'd done this, I'd trace the crosses, which helped, because I could, hold on to something, and I could do multiple. So it's easier to trace on a bigger piece, but then when I go to cut it, I have one more extra cut. What I'm trying to do is minimize my cutouts on the bandsaw, because that's actually more work, I think. That's why my extents of the cross here, here, and here are already determined. So all I got to do is trace out the insides. So here we go. Just thought I'd share that little note with you. It's important. Also, probably helps. It's a little more safer because there's not as much blade sticking out. I do have, my sled dog here, or my bench. What is it? I don't know what the heck they call these. But it's got that little thing in it. Helps push through and keep my fingers out of the way. Safety's always huge. You can end your work quick. You won't finish anything if you end up, nicking a fingertip or taking off a finger. Okay, here I am, and another step complete in the cross building process. Purple heart. These are all cut to size here. This is bird's eye maple. This is a chunk of curly maple. This is Chechen from, I think Central America. Nice grain. Here's some oak, walnut, and cherry. Some sapwood, hardwood, and a bunch of hardwood there. So that'll all turn out nice. Now the next step is to put these on and trace, and then bring them to the bandsaw. This just in, and discovered the Chechen and the Purple Heart, given the breakability test of the regular cross, really wasn't that good. The curly maple built in this with this style is very strong. This style, I think it's pretty strong. I could probably break the bottom, but that's not bad. That's pretty good. So if it breaks, it's going to break along the grain. The grain is running this way. It's going to break here or over here. That one's pretty strong. This one, just weak. So I think what I might end up doing is doing more of the cherry and the walnut, the cherry and the birch probably. I might make them with the straight cross, whereas these two, I think I'm going to end up doing mostly this way because I don't really want a chance breaking them. I mean, this piece seems pretty strong, but this piece broke. I don't know. That's how it happens. See, that piece broke. So I don't really trust the Purple Heart unless it's built like this. This is oak. That's pretty strong. This is the walnut. I know the walnut's really strong, so I'm not even going to fuss about that. So, much like anything else, it's just test and see what works and see what doesn't. And obviously, those didn't work. Okay. There's the roughed out product. That's in the Chechen. That's the Purple Heart. That's more Chechen. So what I found was it's kind of hard to scribe on there with pencil. And since I'm going to hand carve all the outsides of these and take out that outer edge, I can deal with the permanent mark or seepage into the wood because I'm just going to end up carving it out anyway. And it's a lot easier to see. Goes a little quicker. And that's what I like to call the aftermath. Just cut pieces. I have a fine tooth. It's a tiny blade on there. If I could do something a little different, I'd go with a fine tooth, larger blade because all my cuts are straight cuts. I don't have any radiuses. That's what I'd ideally like to have, but I don't think I have that. I'll have to look. So I think the next thing I'll show you, since I have some of these, are some hand-carved ones. I won't get to that right away, but sometime in the future, you'll be able to see those, and we'll see how many I can get done. Just as I spoke of, I was talking about that last blade, which is a fine-tooth 16th inch. This is an 1/8 inch, I believe, and It's actually not that bad. It cuts real good, and it's a new blade, so it's real smooth. And I don't have any problems cutting with it, so I'm going to use that. It's a lot more stable, a lot easier to cut the straight lines. Good deal. This just in, and discovered the Chichen and the Purple Heart, given the breakability test of the regular cross, really wasn't that good. The curly maple built in this with this style is very strong. This style, I think it's pretty strong. I could probably break the bottom, but that's not bad. That's pretty good. So if it breaks, it's going to break along the grain. The grain is running this way. It's going to break here or over here. That one's pretty strong. This one, just weak. So I think what I might end up doing is doing more of the cherry and the walnut, the cherry and the birch probably. I might make them with the straight cross, whereas these two, I think I'm gonna end up doing mostly this way because I don't really want a chance breaking them. I mean, this piece seems pretty strong, but this piece broke. I don't know. That's how it happens. See, that piece broke. So I don't really trust the Purple Heart unless it's built like this. This is oak. That's pretty strong. This is the walnut. I know the walnut's really strong, so I'm not even gonna fuss about that. So, much like anything else, it's just test and see what works and see what doesn't. And obviously, those didn't work. Well, here I am with a whole pile of crosses. I don't know how many I just did, but it takes a while. It's kind of backbreaking at this point, but I don't know, they turned out pretty good. Pretty satisfied. So one thing that I did do that I didn't catch on film, and here I've got some pieces that are part of a burl. That's what the drill was for. I ended up attaching a burl to an L-shaped jig thing here, and then I screwed through the back into the burl and held the burl and ran it through the table saw to get 1/4 inch slices. So, all right, let's hand carve some eventually, and that's probably where I'll leave it. Okay, probably wondering what a lathe has to do with crosses. Well, I've seen a lot of different crosses, I guess, and growing up and in my travels. So the reason I rough cut these like this is because I wanted to be able to do more of a pattern in here. And I'm a big lathe turner, so I said, well, what can I do in here? And when I was probably 15, 16, my mom's friend wanted to, was going to make me a cross. Well, my mom was going to consign him for it or something. So we went out back and went up over the hill and went to one of these, what we called the graveyard site for cows, cow graveyard, and we found some cow bone, and I brought it back, and he made a cross out of it, and then he put this black opal circle in the center, and I wore that for a while until I think I got drunk and had it broke or something. I don't even know what happened. So that was high school, and here I am now, the guy making them, and I want to do something different. So here I am on the lathe, and I just wanted to turn a simple, ring in there and a little bead, and I think that's going to turn out nice. It's going to give me something to work with, so I'm going to try to do a few of these, and it'll be fun. I like it. Okay, well, I just turned a few, and this is what they look like. Next will be hand carving. Got a variety of stuff going on there. Okay, here's the next step in the wooden crosses. Picked out a few. Got my flex cut carver, I guess, knife. I don't know what you want to call it. It is pretty sharp. You got to keep a mirror polish. Zoom in. A mirror polish. Sharpen mirror polish sharp on it or whatever. Mirror polish blade. That's really the key here. So what I've got is a leather strop. It's actually a piece of leather that's attached to wood that's meant for carving different types of carving knives and gouges and things. And I just really want to keep it sharp, so I'll hold it at a downward angle and run it that way, and just to keep it as sharp as I can get it. And then I will pick up a cross, and ideally what I want to do to give everyone the idea afterwards that it was all hand carved, totally hand carved out of a piece of wood. And I think the only way to really do that is to get rid of all evidence that it was cut on a bandsaw or table saw. So what I'm going to do is basically take off all the corners. And then from there, I can decide what kind of pattern I want in the actual cross. And you can get creative with it depending on how much time you want to spend. Something like this takes a little bit more time. You can see I thinned out, sharpened the tips. This more closely resembles something that I've had in the past. You can see the ribbon figure in this cross. This is a tiger maple, hardwood but tight grain, and so this is something that you could do. Anyhow, and that all started with one of these. You can see, right? So I'm just going to go basic because something like that takes a bit more time, and I'm just going to soften up all the edges, see where my heart takes me as far as a design. Okay, so here's the first old wooden cross. This is spalted beech. You can see I just kind of carved it up on the edges. Nothing too spectacular, but it's got a decent, nice hand engraved, warm look to it. So that's pretty much where they all would start, and you can take it on from here and do whatever you want. But I think this is the most, basic, simple appearance, and I think it works pretty well. So there you have it. I might do a few more and show you what a few of the other ones look like after they're done, and maybe try to get a little more intricate with one before I post video. Okay, here's another carved cross. This is Chechen with the circle that I did on the lathe there. I just basically carved up the corners and softened them up a little bit. So not a big deal, but this one could be ready to fly. I like carving this wood. It's got some nice oily ness to it, and the grains aren't too hard. So it carves pretty well. And so that'll work. I was going to say something else about it. I might knock down these edges here a little bit. I like to soften those up a little bit more. But that's basically the look I'm going for. If I really want to get into it and finish it, I think just through use and holding it, maybe praying with it, who knows, that the oil and the rubbing from your hands will actually sand it a little bit and wear it down. But if you wanted to get it a little smoother, you could take some sandpaper and soften it up a little bit more, and even fine sand it to the point where you could make it a smooth circle. You can make these posts. Something else you could do is you could carve down the inside here and keep the bottoms wide, a little more of a Celtic cross. So the options are all yours. The only other thing that I want to do once I get it to this stage, stupid thing, focus, is mineral oil. Mineral oil soaks into the wood, kind of preserves it, softens it a bit. And I'll just put some oil on these two and show you what that looks like. Okay, here are those two crosses all oiled up, mineral oil. Just real simple, get it at the drugstore. I put it on all my wood because it's natural and it's a non-toxic finish. Does give it a little oily, it'll soak into the wood. You can just let it sit there, it'll dry on it. And I do it with just about everything, all my woodworking. I don't really like varnishes and things like that. With varnishes, they tend to actually get more dull as time goes on. But with natural oils, the wood will actually, become shinier as time goes on and overuse. So those are two. I might do a few more and show you a couple more things that are possible. But beginning to end, those are the old wooden crosses, hand carved.